Much better than I anticipated. I think when I look back at the situation, it was just awkward more than anything. The second goal kick in the first half, I went to go strike the ball, planted, slipped, and at that point I felt something tweak. As I was assessing it personally throughout the game, it felt like one of those things that wasn't going to get worse, but it needed some compression. So later in the half, when I did get the treatment, that was all that was necessary. At halftime, we were able to do some more things to it. But in the second half, it might have been in my mind, but it wasn't anything that hindered my motion or my ability.
We have this a lot of talk about this Ironman streak that you've had. Does that come into play at all when
No.
you gut this out?
No, if anything, it probably puts a little more pressure because I don't ever want to put the team in a situation where they come secondary to my own desire. My desire is to help this team win, and if that means that I need to step off the field and let someone else hop in there, then that's going to be the priority, isn't necessarily the streak. It is fun and it's cool that it's going on, but it isn't something that motivates me, and it's not something that consumes my thoughts.
And after the COVID break, the team had a little bit of a trend of giving up late leads and kind of letting games slip. But in Chicago, the role was a little bit reversed. You guys were able to get a lead equalizer. Maybe that show you guys something a little bit different this year in terms of fighting back?
I think when you look at the second half, you start to see a form of grit that's required down the stretch. At halftime, there wasn't necessarily a lot of shouting and hollering. It was more of, okay, this is the challenge, guys. How are we going to answer the call? And I felt like in the second half, we had the run of play, we created the better chances, and we were the deserving team to at least win that half. That translated into a point for us, which at this stage is very important, especially against a conference opponent, and especially since the other teams around us were able to get results. So on the road, if we can get 1 point minimum, that's great, and then at home we have to always take care of business.
Your attention turns out to Champions League play tomorrow at Red Bull Arena. Where does that competition rank in terms of the importance and how much of a premium you're putting on getting results there?
Very high, and I think that's what adds to our agitation right now, because we did so well last year. We've positioned ourselves to represent Major League Soccer in a way that is very valuable. If we can move on to the next group or out of the group stage into the knockout stage, not only does that continue to build a brand of Major League Soccer and show the quality that exists here, but then you want to push towards being the first team ever to win this tournament. Major League Soccer over the years continues to get better, but one way that we can show the world that we're getting better is to win the competition. And then I alluded to earlier the agitation is because we're missing a key guy. You look back at the last game and Dax goes down with a significant injury that's going to cause him to miss all of this month and maybe part of next at a pivotal time in our season. When we do have Champions League, when we do have big important games, that's going to determine where we are in the table and what our situation looks like headed towards the playoffs. You look at Sasha, he's very lucky that he also didn't get hurt. Obviously, when you look throughout the league, we play in a way that can be predictable but is effective. We play very fast, we counter press, we create turnovers, and sometimes the game plan against us is to foul us. Sometimes the game plan against us to slow it down is to knock us around, and the effectiveness of that game plan is dictated usually by if the calls go our way or not. And you look at those two situations with Sasha, with Dax, and you just wonder about player safety. I feel like the narrative within the league hasn't necessarily been directed towards one side, but just this overall concern of player safety. And there's been a couple incidents in this season. You look at Kamara when he went down and he had an injury that kept him out a couple weeks, and really that's affected us because look, he got hurt before Gold Cup. He's been gone for Copa America, and even now it's just been this ongoing thing. What sort of started with the incident in New England. I think the agitation is based mostly around the safety of our players. We understand that teams are going to do that. That's part of the game. But the part that leaves us most frustrated is the extent to which it affects the game. And unfortunately for us, it feels like that extent has been to a great degree. And it's something that we have to deal with, but we also wonder at what point do we get some help so that we can protect the safety of our players. I think when you look at just the overall demeanor of our team, it is to go about our business, to be put in a hard day's work, give an honest effort. And one of the best examples is Brad. I think when you look at Brad and the pedigree of player that he is and just what he's accomplished in a short period of time in Major League Soccer, it's phenomenal. It's astounding. It's more than Red Bull can honestly say that they're expecting and more than Major League Soccer was probably expecting. And the way he goes about his business, running hard, closing guys down, not taking dives, but some of the fouls he's also endured have been concerning as well. So now that when we look at Dax's injury, we look at Sasha escaping a very vicious tackle, and then the amount of physicality towards Brad, you just start to really wonder and be concerned about player safety. And it's something that is been spoken about often. You know, Jesse continues to harp on us being as honest as we can. But if there's a moment where we get fouled, we should go down. And we don't do that in a way that's vindictive. We don't do that in a way that's manipulative. But simply the fact that if you get fouled and you have to go to the ground, all right, you know, this toughness that we were showing in the beginning, it's not working. So maybe we have to just sort of redirect our honesty. And that hasn't seemed to work either. So at this point, I do feel like player safety is an issue. And I'm concerned about some of our key guys, some of the things that they've endured. And unfortunately, this might have been said too late because one of our key guys, our captain, is out for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Do you sense that as a trend here? Teams coming against you with a certain mentality, maybe a certain way, hyper-aggressive, hyper-physical?
I hesitate on the word hyper because I don't want to take away from them understanding how to play against us. I think to the extent in which they play, it's all governed by outside forces. And if it's limited, if it's kept to a minimum, then it may start to translate in them doing it less. But if it's allowed to go on, then all of a sudden it's effective. And if it's effective, why would you ask the team to stop? Why? They'd be crazy to change their tactic. And in some cases it's worked, and I think that's where some of the frustration's at because it can be kept to a minimum, but at times it feels like it hasn't been.